Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Super excited today to be joined by One Exam Prep's new electrical instructor, Mike Waggoner. Mike, thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate the time. Thank you, Andrew.
So, Mike, am I reading this correctly? It says here you have 40 plus years in the electrical industry.
Unfortunately, yeah. Or fortunately, I guess. It's been a long time. Yeah, I started in 1982.
Lifetime of experience, huh?
Yeah. I enjoy what I do.
Fantastic. Over that time, sir, what are some, let us know, what are some memorable projects of yours? What did you like working on?
Oh, man, it's been a multitude of things, but I started out in the trade, did the first 10 years or so in the residential markets. And I mean, that was good. I learned, I went through the apprenticeship during that time and was able to get my journeyman license back in 85, I guess it was. And so it was good, but 10 years or so into it, I felt like I was kind of interested in breaking into the commercial arena. So that started up a whole nother chapter of experience and everything. And the first company I worked for in that capacity in the commercial side of things was a what we call an MEP contractor, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. And I was the first electrician on board there. And Andrew, inside of 4 years, we went from me being the only electrician to having probably 150 or so electricians on the payroll, equal number of mechanical and plumbers, mechanical guys and plumbers there. And inside that 4 year period, we went from nothing to the peak to having their doors shut down by the bonding companies. And it all comes down to the management of the business. But that was probably the first real taste of commercial work that I got. And there's a lot of lessons learned there. After that, I did a few years. Actually, I went in, I think right after that, I was self-employed for a little while. I tried that. And then September 11th, 2001 happened after I was, I guess, about a year and a half into business. And at the time, I was doing a lot of cell site work, building out the Nextel, AT&T, Bell South networks down in Florida. And that was my first rodeo and my first crash and burn as a self-employed guy. Learned a lot of lessons there too. And then I went to a company in Tampa and spent a few years there as a commercial estimator and project manager. Worked on a lot of different commercial projects, a lot of Walgreens stores, a little bit of public work, but most of it was private sector. And then the recession of 08 and 09 caught up with me there, and I got laid off. And then I started, in fact, at the time, there was nobody hiring in Florida when that recession was kind of in full swing. So I tried self-employment again, just trying to pay the bills, and did a lot of service work and did a little bit of residential rehab work. And that was lean, and I wasn't really making any money. So I ended up in the oil fields of North Dakota back in 2014 for a couple, 2.5 years, I guess, working up there because they were doing that fracking up there. And so the company I was working for at the time, we were not working on the oil fields per se, but we were doing a lot of the work on the supporting facilities around the oil fields. And that was another learning experience. And then when I got done with that, I was tired. I just couldn't do the winters. I did a couple of winters up there, and it's hard to bend wire and make up services when it's 27 below. And I said, I can't do that anymore. So I left there and then ended up in Virginia at my second MEP company, Southern Air up there, and worked up there for 5 years and did some different jobs, Virginia Tech, Lynchburg, Liberty University, UVA, Randolph College, a lot of public work in the school system. That was kind of our bread and butter up there, at least on the electrical side of things. And then I met a lady and came down here to the Cary, Raleigh area and married her, and then got into my third MEP company that I worked for, and then I got introduced to the labs and some of the other things in the Research Triangle Park that they have going on there. Did some work for BASF, RTI, DuPont, mostly small jobs, small construction and special projects, because of the way I've been kind of chasing the MEP side of things. That's where a lot of that experience came in. And then most recently, I've been at a company, a commercial electrical contracting company here in town, and left there 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, I guess, and started up my own thing. But it's going to be the focus of my company is going to be, again, MEP. So small jobs. I mean, there's a lot of work out there in a larger dollar frame and all that, and that's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is like commercial work under $1 million, under 2 million anyhow. So that's kind of a snapshot of where I have been in the last 42 years.
Really, truly amazing, Mike. It sounds like there's not much in the electrical industry that you haven't seen or done. I've been all over.
Had a fair amount of experience. Yeah. Not much.
Tell me a little bit.
Yeah.
If you can, sir, tell me a little bit about these licenses you hold. I see your unlimited electrical Florida, unlimited electrical North Carolina, Virginia Master.
Yeah. I spent a lot of my years, most of my years in the trade, almost 40 years down in Florida, and that's where I got my unlimited electrical license back in 1996. And it's I can work on anything that has to do with electricity in the state of Florida. That actually took me 3 tries to get that license, because I learned back then that you could be really good at your trade, but that doesn't mean you know how to study for an exam and take an exam the way the exams are given. But so I got my electrical license back in 96, and then over the years of working in the cell site industry, and I did a few years of doing some insurance restoration work as a general contractor and doing some remodel work, I was able to qualify to sit and take the GC exam. So in 2008, I did that. And it's funny because I'm not necessarily a general contractor. I know a lot about it. But the knowing your trade and taking the test are 2 different things. So I took a prep course before I went in and took my general contracting exam, and I passed it on the first try because I wasn't clouded with all the real world practical applications that you have as a tradesman. I was just taught how to take the exam, and I passed it. So anyhow, that was how I ended up with the GC license. My North Carolina unlimited license, that's a matter of reciprocity. So I didn't have to take another test. I had to take a business and law test to get like my license up here. And the Virginia test, they do things a little bit differently. So I took the trade portion of the electrical exam up there, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and never took the business and law and the classification exam test that you need to take to determine, is it, like a class A unlimited, B intermediate, or C residential class. So I never did that, but that's on my to-do list. And then in that whole process of working up in Virginia, years ago, I got my introduction to becoming a NCCER craft certified electrical instructor. And that's kind of what my credentials are anyhow up to this point.
That's pretty incredible. That's a life's work, sir. One thing you mentioned, I heard you say that was very interesting to me when you were speaking on the licensing exam. You mentioned they're not really testing you on how well you can perform your job, but it's really a matter of how well you can take the exam. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, the exam there's a couple things that come to mind. Number one, it's a timed exam. So if you're like anything like me, I as a tradesman, I work with my hands. It's not that I don't have the intellectual capacity to take the exams. It's just I'm not a book guy. In fact, I learned the best and still do today when I start dealing with continuing education. In fact, I was in a continuing education class yesterday from 8 to noon. I do better in a classroom environment. But that being said, where I was going with this is being a timed exam, you have to be very aware of how quickly you're moving through the exam material. And the questions are written to try to trip you up and get you to stop on a question and spend a lot of time there. I'm not going to argue the point whether it's right, wrong, or different. It's the way that the test taking process is set up in this country. It's designed. Well, it's kind of designed to make you fail, if you will. It's a timed test. Some of them are open book, some are a combination of open book and closed book. Some of them have, like the Virginia test, that was just your trade knowledge. A whole different test to take for the business part of it. Down in Florida, it's all under one test, but it's 3 different parts. So you have to be very aware of your time and how you're using it. Another thing that comes to mind is, especially like in calculations on the electrical side of things, the 3 most popular wrong answers will be on your test, on your answer key. The right answer will be there, and the 3 most popular ones that guys and girls put when they're taking the test will be there as well. So you could go through a calculation and you can miss one little part of that calculation, and that answer is going to be there. And you think okay, got it, and you move on. Well, come to find out, you just left part of the equation or part of the calculation on the table, and you got the wrong answer. So you have to be able to get through the material in a timely fashion. You have to know how to find it when you are looking for the answers, because the code book is, I don't know, 2.5, 3 inches thick. That's just one book. You have to know how to use the index, the table of contents, and the information in those documents effectively. And that's where this is why I'm really excited about this opportunity with you, Andrew, and the one exam prep is it's a way to really kind of hone that skill in teaching other people how to do it, because there is a process for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if I told you, Mike, I'm going to take my test in an hour, what would you tell me? If you only had 5 minutes, what would you tell me?
Breathe. Take a breath and just relax. But be aware of your time. Go through the process. Go through the test at least 3 times. Make 3 passes through it. Go through the first time. Read every single question. Get a flavor for the test. And one of the biggest benefits to that is it will tell you what questions are on the exam, so that, like, if you get into, I don't know, services on the electrical part of it, there's going to be multiple questions on services. So you go knock out all of those. If there's 3 or 4 or 5 questions on services, you knock them all out at the same time while you're in that section of the code book, and then you move on. So those strategies are very, very important to work your way through the exam. So make 3 passes through it. The first one is to get a feel for the test and figure out what's on it. The second one is to look for keywords and zero in on what are they asking you. And if you can find the exact keyword to answer their question, that's going to get you very, very close. And it's going to get you in the section of the code book that you need to be in. And then don't leave anything unanswered. You can guess. It's a multiple choice. It's 4. You got A, B, C, D. If you run out of time and you've got, I don't know, 3 minutes left, you answer everything. You're going to get 25% of them.
Awesome. Thank you for the advice. That's really, really, really helpful. So I know one of the reasons, Mr. Waggoner, that you wanted to teach after having such a successful career is to give back to the skilled trades, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And I also know can you tell us a little bit about the company you founded and what you're doing there?
Well, it really, uh, it's kind of, I'm not done contracting, Andrew, I guess is the reason that I did it. I want to continue to contract for a multitude of reasons, but not to go off on that rabbit trail. One of them being that I want to be able to give back to the industry that has given me everything that I have. The trades are a good industry. It's hard work. Yep, you're going to get dirty, but you can have everything that anybody else in this country does. The opportunities exist it's limitless in the construction industry. You have to apply yourself. So why I started up the company is twofold. I'm not done contracting and I want to start giving back. And the giving back part of it is really, there's a lot more to it than just contracting. I could spend a whole segment on that whole aspect of it with you, Andrew, to be honest with you.
Does it have to do with the subcontractor peer group?
It does. That's going to be a big component to it. Yeah. Excuse me?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just going to say, for a few years ago, actually quite a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, when I was still in Virginia, the company I was working for at the time, the president of the company belonged to a peer group, and they still do. And so I started looking into peer groups in the construction industry, and there are a few out there, but they're more geared towards the large contractors. And what I found is that there's not a whole lot out there from a peer group standpoint for the small contractors and subcontractors. And that's where literally my entire life's experience has been, in small construction, special services type of arena, subcontractors, if you will. So that's why I've developed over the years this desire to create this peer group. And actually it was earlier this year I set up the corporation to do it. And now I'm in the process of putting together the bylaws and everything, but it's going to be just a platform, if you will, a forum for subcontractors, small contractors to meet on a regular basis, to roundtable about successes, failures, lessons learned, best practices, the different parts of being a successful tradesperson and being a contractor, because there's different, it's like, to equate it to, my dad was an attorney, but to equate it to the law profession, you could be a good paralegal, but that doesn't mean that you are then qualified and ready to be an attorney. So there's so much to the construction arena. I wanted a place where we could all kind of meet and throw the topics around and see, who's been there, who's got some good quality answers to bring to the table to help us all out as an industry.
Oh, that's really, really cool. I think that's definitely a space that needs the attention, and it's very exciting that you're giving it the attention and doing something about it. It'll definitely help a lot of people. And the idea of prosperity, right, where there's enough for everyone to go around.
There is.
We can all succeed. Let's all help each other, right?
That's right. There is enough to go around. I mean, we live in the wealthiest country in the world. We have enormous opportunities that a lot of us, including myself, have taken for granted over the years.
Very good stuff. Very good stuff. So I know we're running short on time here, Mike,
All
but
right.
I got two final questions for you.
What you got?
One, I know as an electrician, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the electricity reaches out and touches you. Any memorable shocks? Any memorable shocks you can tell us about?
Well, yeah, actually, I think I was kind of born to do what I'm doing. I mean, I was a toddler, maybe 5, 6 years old. I got hung up on a camper trailer that we had plugged in our driveway, plugged into a non-GFI receptacle in a post light. And I couldn't get off of it. That was my first taste of being electrocuted. My mom actually had to come running down there and tackle me off of it. And then fast forward to when I graduated from high school and got into the trade, I got my first taste of 277 volts on the first job that I was working on. And that actually burned my arm. And I mean, it's something that I don't want to do again. It leaves a taste in your mouth. And fast forward again to where I'm at now. I've adopted and will adopt this in my company. We don't work on hot circuits because I've actually been blown up by a meter socket too, and spent time in the Tampa General burn unit. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So we don't work hot anymore. And if we absolutely have to, like there's some places, and NFPA 70E addresses this, where you absolutely must work things hot, where it's to the detriment of everything else. Like in a hospital, you can't shut down a panel in a hospital to get into it. So there are provisions that you must take to work that safely. And that's where I'm at with it now. But unless it's some kind of environment like that, I don't work things hot.
Wow. Thank you for those anecdotes. Last question for you, sir. I understand you're a muscle car guy. Well,
Yeah.
what's your favorite? What's your favorite one? What are you driving?
All of them. Well, I'm not driving one right now, but I have my sights set on a Hellcat, a 6-speed Hellcat, because there's something about rowing gears that I think everybody should experience. I learned to drive a manual transmission car in a 67 GTO, and that leaves an impression with you. So I like the old muscle. I like the new muscle, as long as it's V8 performance.
Awesome.
So
I'm a motorcycle guy myself, but
yeah.
I'd love to attack the tail of the dragon with you one day. That would be
we'll do that. Yeah. Yeah. I did a couple of stints on bikes, been on the pavement once or twice.
Again, not a matter of if, matter of when, right?
That's right.
So, Mike, before we wrap up, any last words you want our audience to hear?
Well, what comes to mind, Andrew, as far as my introduction and the season of the next season of my career with one exam is become a sponge. Ask questions until people get tired of you asking questions, and then ask some more, and soak it up like a sponge, because the more you can learn, the more your career is going to accelerate, and the more that doors are going to open. And one of the biggest things that I would recommend to anybody is to get licensed. When it comes time where you have enough time to sit for your exams, do it. Journeyman, masters, contractors, the whole 9 yards. It will open up doors that you'll never regret having opened.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That's advice from a man who's been doing this 40 plus years, a lifetime of work in the industry. So definitely something we should all listen to. Mike, thank you so much for your time today, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Yep. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Bye.